The holidays are over, and if you're like most Americans, not only are you feeling the stress of the holidays, but your bank account is still feeling the stress of the holidays. You see, in today's video, I want to talk through 3 things that you can do to at least double your savings in 2025 and make sure that next holiday season, your bank account is not feeling the same amount of stress that it's feeling right now. Hey everyone, if we haven't met before, my name is Jacob Turner. I'm a former Major League Baseball player, and I currently am a financial advisor helping professional athletes and entrepreneurs grow and build wealth. In today's video, we're not going to talk about the little things everybody talks about, saving money on coffee or saving a little bit of nickel and dime here. No. We're going to talk about the 3 foundational things that you can do today. Every single person watching this video can do them to make sure that you at least 2, 3, 4, 5 extra savings heading into 2025. And I'll guarantee you this, not only will you be able to increase your savings, you will also reduce the stress and reduce the anxiety you feel around money. So let's get started. All right, so the first step to doing any real planning is you have to know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, you're not gonna be able to do real planning. So step 1 in this is we are going to understand and create a budget. But maybe it's not the budget that you thought of in the past, and I promise we'll create one that works for you. So step 1 in creating a budget is this. We are gonna list out all of our expenses on one side, okay? So in this scenario, we put food, housing, travel, and entertainment. Now you can break these down as specific as you want, but my recommendation is you keep it relatively broad, 5, 10 categories at max. And then the other side, I want you to list out the priority of each one of these items. So I'll give you an example. On here, we're gonna say food is our top priority, housing's our second, and then we're gonna say entertainment is our third, and travel is our fourth. And then what I want you to do is list out on these categories, which ones are you spending the most money? So again, we'll list this out and we'll say housing is our top spending category, travel is our second, food is our third, and entertainment is our fourth. And what I want you to do is to be able to map out which one of these don't make sense. And what I mean by that is, which one of these categories are we spending a lot of money on today, but we're saying over here in priorities, it's not the biggest priority for me. So that's gonna be step 1. I want us to list out our expenses and then determine which things we're spending the most money on and make sure those align with our priorities. Now that we've listed out all the expenses we have and we've listed out all the priorities we have and we understand which one of these things maybe don't align, so we understand moving forward, which one of these could we potentially cut back on. Now I want us to talk about how are we going to budget. Now I know budget's a scary word, but I can promise you if you budget your money, it will give you more freedom to spend. And remember, what we're trying to do is get to next holiday season and not feel the same amount of stress that we felt this year. So there's 2 different types of forms of budgeting that we can talk through. The first one is traditional and the second one is reverse. And they're not confusing. The only difference is with traditional budgeting, you are doing your expenses first. So you're saying food, housing, travel, those things are going on our budget line item first. When we're thinking about reverse budgeting, the only difference there is our savings are going first. Now, which one is right for you? I'm gonna tell you right now, it really depends. For me personally, I use traditional budgeting. For most people starting out, I think reverse budgeting makes sense. Have you ever heard this phrase, pay yourself first? Well, really, pay yourself first is reverse budgeting because what that does is it allows you to take the money that's coming in and set aside some of that money for savings and then understand if I made $1,000 this week, I set aside $200 for savings, I have $800 left to spend. Then I don't have to map out from a traditional side as much of what the expenses are. I just know I can only spend $800 because $200 already went out. So that's the next step for you, deciding do I want to do reverse budgeting or do I want to do traditional budgeting? All right, so now that we understand what our expenses are, what our priorities are, we understand if we want to do traditional budgeting or want to do reverse budgeting, the next thing that we need to understand is what are the tools that we can use to make sure that we can stay on track with this. So I'm going to recommend 2. Number 1 is Monarch Money. Monarch Money is a great tool. It will help you automate some of this. It will help you keep track of those budget line items and it will pull in all the transactions that you have. Another one that you can also use is called You Need a Budget. Now these are both really similar tools. I personally use Monarch and the reason why I use it is it's a little bit more robust. But the reason why we want to have some sort of software in place for step 1 in this is because we're going to have to be able to track our expenses. We're thinking about this right now, but I can assure you when summer comes and we're on vacation, we're not gonna wanna be thinking about our money like this. So if we have some sort of tool that can help us track these expenses, then we can go in every 2, 3, 4 weeks and be able to quickly understand how much money are we spending, how much money are we saving, and are we on track? Okay, so now that we understand that we need to have a budget and we understand how we're gonna do a budget, we've determined which type of budget we're gonna do and what kind of software we're gonna use. The second thing that's gonna help you boost your savings in 2025 is automating things. I want to show you a diagram of what it looks like today if you're not automating your savings. So if we're not automating our savings today, this is what it looks like. We have our paycheck here. And you can see all these little arrows that are coming out from our paycheck. And what's happening is we have no idea where the money's going. All we know is that our paycheck came in, it hit our bank account, and before we even knew it, it was gone. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So instead of feeling overwhelmed about our money and not understanding where it's going, we want to give our money direction. So here's what we're going to do instead. Now look, I promised I was going to make this as simple as possible. So instead of our paycheck coming in and us not knowing where the money is going, because remember, we're trying to boost our savings. We're going to have our paycheck here, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to have it come over to savings, okay? After savings, then it's going to go to expenses. Now remember I talked about in step 1, we need a budget. This is reverse budgeting. So if you're just starting out, I think reverse budgeting is a great tool because what it does is it allows you to pay yourself first. And remember, what we're trying to avoid is we're trying to avoid the situation where we get to the end of the year and say, man, I had a record year. I made more money than I ever made. Where did all the money go? And you leave yourself feeling stressed out and unsure about your financial future. So instead, what we want to do is we want to automate this. The minute the paycheck comes in, we want this to be going to an account where we can have it set up where we'll automatically deduct some of that money and be going towards our future investments. This could be things like your 401k or your taxable investment accounts. The easiest setup you can do is doing just 401k contributions right off the bat. We don't have to make this super complex to start. The third thing that we need to do to make sure that we can boost our savings going into 2025 is this. We need to have a high yield savings account. Now, the reason why this is so important is interest rates have risen significantly over the past 2 years. And if your money is just sitting in a traditional checking account right now, it's earning next to nothing. Whereas a high yield savings account on a risk-free rate of return is going to allow you to earn around 4.5%, which means for every $10,000 that we had, that means that we could have about $450 a year that high yield savings accounts is producing. So remember in step 2 how we want to automate this and we want to have some of this money saved. Some of this money should be going to our high yield savings account. Now, one recommendation I have is Ally is a great company that has an online high yield savings account. It's very easy to set up. They have tons of automations. You can create different buckets. It's a tool that I would recommend anybody use. And you will also get a really good rate of return on it. So remember, boosting our savings is first and foremost understanding budgeting, but then we have to understand where our money is going. But then we also have to be maximizing our money when it goes there. A high yield savings account is a great way to be doing that. These 3 elements that we talked about today are foundational concepts. If you can nail these 3 things, if you can create a budget, if you can give your money direction, and if you can start to automate that entire process, you are going to be ahead of 99% of people. And what's going to happen is your savings is going to quickly grow and you're going to wonder, what are the other things I should potentially be thinking about? And you might be thinking, this might be time now at the end of 2025 for you to potentially hire a financial advisor. And what I would tell you is this. If you want to do that, make sure you watch this other video I did on 10 questions that anybody should ask if they're looking to hire a financial advisor. I think it'll help you. Now look, if you're looking to get smarter with your money this year, make sure you follow along for more financial education like this.